This is homework number 1, chapter 6, starting with 6-7. Solve each equation for the indicated variable. Let's solve this one for x. So that means my answer should be x equals something. Step 1, get rid of the 2y. I'm going to add 2y to each side. That's going to make a zero pair. Negative 2y plus 2y is 0. (18 plus 2y is just 18 plus 2y. Write them side by side. And then this is 3 times x. So to undo multiplication, I divide by 3. But I need to divide everything on the other side by 3 also, since it's an equation. So x equals 18 divided by 3 is 6, plus 2 divided by 3 is just 2 divided by 3. That's a fraction. So it's 6 plus 2 over 3y. Alright, I'll let you do b. Let's try c. C equals 2 pi r. That's 2 pi times r. So how do we undo multiplication? And we're solving for r. We do it with division. If I divide by 2 pi, that will cancel out the multiplication, and anything divided by itself is 1. So r equals, that's my goal because I'm solving for r equals c over 2 pi. (6-15) Solve for y. I'll do b. Solve for y means my answer should be y equals. So let's start by making a zero pair with the 12x. 12x minus 12x is 0. Cancels. Be careful, this negative sign belongs to the 3y. So negative 3y equals 7 minus 12x. Then I divide both sides by the number in front of y. Negative 3 times y. So I can undo the times sign with division. If I divide by negative 3, a negative divided by negative is a positive, and 3 divided by 3 is 1, so it just cancels. I get y equals. Because this is an equation, I need to keep it balanced. So I get y equals, I'll divide everything over here by negative 3. So that's 7 divided by negative 3. And then we have minus 12x divided by negative 3. Okay, so a couple things here. We have minus minus, negative 12 divided by negative 3. That's going to make a positive. So really, this is going to be plus 12x over 3, negative divided by negative. And then 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this becomes 4x. This is still a plus sign. And then 7 divided by 3, that doesn't really go in evenly. So I'm going to leave it as a fraction. And you're allowed to move the negative sign to the front of the fraction if you want. That's optional. That's the answer. 6-16. Okay, let's solve b. So for these, I prefer the FOIL method. But you can also do this by drawing the box. So the first two terms, we have m times m. We need to multiply these polynomials. That's m squared. Then we have m times 3. That's plus 3m. 2 times m. That's plus 2m. 2 times 3 plus 6. Combine like terms. m squared plus 5m plus 6. So this becomes m squared plus 5 squared plus 6, but we still have an equal sign, And we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the equation. So let's use FOIL to simplify it out. M times M, M squared. M times negative 2, that's negative 2M. Positive 2 times M, that's plus 2M. And then 2 times negative 2. Positive times a negative, so it's negative 4. When you make a zero pair here, when you combine like terms here, that's a zero pair. Negative 2M plus 2M is 0, so it's just left with m squared minus 4. So in my equation on the right hand side, I have m squared minus 4. Okay, so next, I have an m squared on each side. So what I'm going to do is take away or subtract m squared from each side, and look what happens. M squared minus itself, 0 pair. M squared minus itself, 0 pair. It cancels. So then we have, with those gone, 5m plus 6 equals, these are gone, so equals negative 4. Almost done. Solve for m. Take away 6 on each side. 5m equals negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. Okay, next let's do D. So for D, it's already foiled for us. All we need to do is solve for T. I've got a T squared on each side. That jumps out to me right away. So I'm going to take away or subtract T squared on both sides of the equation. T squared minus T squared cancels. T squared minus T squared cancels. Left with 4T minus 2 equals 6. Now we're going to add 2 on each side. Negative 2 plus 2, that cancels, and I get 4t equals 8. So this one was a little bit shorter. T is 2. Okay, 6-18. Find what is the missing term in each sequence, and the hint for this one is that it's arithmetic. It doesn't look arithmetic, but look, they're skipping 1, 5, 10. So let's pretend they didn't skip, and let's write out every entry in the table. We don't know the 0 term, but we know the first term is 1. And we know the 5th term is negative 7. So clearly it's decreasing because of it's positive 1. And then down here it becomes negative 7. But what number do I subtract each time? Well, if you said 2, that's a good guess, but let's be 100% precise. So when you have a table like this, the easiest way to find the common difference is by subtraction. 5 minus 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. So that's the difference in the in column. And then negative 7 minus 1 is negative 8. If I divide these two numbers, the y or tn on top, negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. And that's our common ratio. Take the difference in the y's, take the difference in the x's, so to speak, and then you divide them. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. So that works out. And because if we subtract 2, that's negative 7. Now to go backwards to get the 0 term, we would add 2. So this would be 3. So I'm going to make my equation, t of n equals common difference times n plus the 0 term plus 3. Okay, so let's answer that question. What is the 23rd term? When n equals 23, well, check this out. We have our explicit equation now. So to find that, I can just plug in 23 for n. T of 23 equals -2 times 23 plus 3. -2 times 23 is -46. Add 3 to that, and you have -43. Alright, I'll let you do the next one. This one is geometric. There's your hint. Find the common ratio, and then fill in the fourth term. 620. Okay, let's graph these two lines over here and find the point of intersection. So we have y equals x plus 2. The starting value, let me call it the y-intercept, is 2. And the slope is the number in front of x. It's 1x. It's the invisible one. So the slope is 1. Alright, so on the y-axis, find 2. That's your starting value. And then it goes up 1 over 1. Okay. Use a ruler so your line will look better than mine. Now we'll graph the other line, 2x minus 1. Okay, so the y-intercept is -1, and the slope is +2. Alright, so if we put -1 on the x-axis, then we get the slope from the number in front of x, that's 2. Remember, 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So there's our point of intersection. So the point of intersection, it looks like it's going to be, what? 3, 5. -25. Sally and George are practicing for their SAT. Let's make Sally red and George green. Sally's current score is 850. That's like her starting value. And it is rising by 10 points per week. That's like her slope or growth. On the other hand, George's current score is 570. That's like his starting value. And his score is growing by 50 points per week. So he's growing faster, but he starts lower. That's the growth, or we call it the slope. Okay. I will do this. I'm going to make an equation. Let's say let x equal number of weeks, and let y equals score. So for Sally, her current score is 850, that's her starting value. And let me say that I'm using y equals mx plus b here. So the b is the starting value. And then for mx, the m is the slope or the growth, and she's growing by 10 points per week. So her equation is y equals 10x plus 850. So let me stop there and look at b, because if the SAT test is in 12 weeks, who's going to score the highest? Well, I set this up so x is the number of weeks. So if x equals 12, y equals, for Sally, 10 times 12 plus 850. So you can find out her 12-week score just by plugging in the number 12 into this equation. So 10 times 12 is 120, and if you add it on to her starting value, that's going to be 970. And that makes sense, right? If it's growing 10 points per week for 12 weeks in a row, that's 120 points of growth. Add that on to where she started, and that's her new point total. George, on the other hand, he starts at 570. So y equals something something plus 570. And he's growing by 50 points per week, so that's going to be 50x plus 570. So now let's answer question A. When will George's score catch up to Sally's? To find that out, we're going to use something called the equal values method. Alright, I'm going to take this equation, and I'm going to take that equation, and since they're both y equals, I'm going to set them equal to each other. And what I mean by that is basically you take this and you take that and you put an equal sign in the middle. So I took this, wrote it here, that here with an equal sign in the middle. And now we can solve for x, right? So take away 10x, that's the smaller of the two x's, so minus 10x. 850 equals 40x plus 570. Then you're going to want to take away 570. So we have 40x equals, this is 0, 15 minus 7 is 8, 7 minus 5 is 2, 280. And then divide both sides by 40. So x equals 7. X was number of weeks, so we can say 7 weeks. Alright, so you have one thing left to do. If the SAT test is in 12 weeks, who will score the highest? This is Sally's score. What will George's score be? Will it be higher? You're going to answer that for part B. Okay, for 627, I did this one above on 6-20. So you can just watch the video for 6-20, and it's the same problem with two different lines. So that'll help you with that. Let's skip to 629. For each recursively defined sequence, write the first few terms. Then you're going to use terms to write an explicit equation. So I will do the geometric one, and you can do the arithmetic one. And I know this is arithmetic because I'm subtracting, and I know this is geometric because I see a times sign. Okay, so A1 equals 20. The way you interpret that is the first term is 20. So let's write the first few terms. 20. Alright, and then we have some instructions here. A of n plus 1, that means the next term. And then we have an equal sign, and then we have a half times, this means the now term. So, let's take what we have now, 20, and to find the next term, like to find the second term is equal to a half times 20. Half of 20 is 10, so our second term is 10. Okay, so now we have 10. So to find the next term, to find the third term, it's a half times what we have now, which is 10, and half of 10 is 5. So you can see that this tells you how to get to the next term, and really all we're doing is multiplying by a half. And half of 5 is 2.5. Okay, so that's what we were supposed to do first, write the first few terms, and then write an explicit equation. To write an explicit equation, we need a zeroth term. And so the zeroth term, half of what number is 20? It'd be 40, right? 40 divided by 2, or 40 times a half, is 20. So that's my zero term. Easy way to do it is just multiply by 2. 20 times 2 is 40. Now we need to write our equation. So the way you write an explicit equation is zero term times the common ratio or multiplier raised to the power n. This one's arithmetic. Give it a shot. 6-38. The perimeter of a triangle is 31 centimeters. Side 1 and side 2 have equal length. Let's make a little diagram. Here's side 1, here's side 2, here's side 3. Okay. Side 3 is 1 centimeter shorter than twice the length of side 1. Ooh, that's complicated. Figure that out in a sec. Determine how long each side is. Alright, so let's let x represent the length of side 1. And let me actually redraw my diagram here. So side 1, side 2, side 3. So x is going to be side 1. Now, because side 1 and 2 have equal length, that means side 2 is also x. So which essential part of this let statement is missing? This is what we have. But it's missing length of side number 1 and side number 2. So this is the missing part. Alright, so what is the length of side 2? We just said that. It's x. And what about side 3? So this is tricky. And there's a shortcut. The secret. Look for the is. Well, is means equal sign. So write an equal sign right there. Side 3 equals 1 centimeter shorter than twice the length of side 1. So side 1 is x. Twice the length of side 1, you just multiply it by 2. So that's 2 times x, or 2x. But that's not quite it, because it says 1 centimeter shorter. So twice the length of side 1, take away 1 centimeter. 2x minus 1. So side 3 is 2x minus 1. Alright. So we have side 3, side 2, and that was the missing part. Now we need to write a mathematical sentence that states the sum of the sides equals the perimeter, which is 31 centimeters. Okay, and perimeter means you just go around the world, or go around the triangle, and add up each side. So we have x plus 2x minus 1. That's all 3 sides. Add them up, and they should all add to 31. Alright, I'll let you solve that. Make sure you label it in centimeters. How many centimeters is each side? Alright, Miss Shreve solved the equation in class. She checked her solution and didn't work out. So let's examine her work and find the mistake. Step 1. 5 times 2x is 10x. Let's distribute this 5. That's what I'm doing. So 5 times 2x, 5 times negative 1, negative 5. That looks pretty good. Okay, so this one, okay, looks good. Then we've got 10x and a negative 3x. So let's combine like terms. That makes 7x. So that's good, 7x minus 5. And then what you do next? So I would take away 5x from each side. So this makes a 0 pair. And 7x minus 5x is actually 2x. And it looks like I would add 5 to each side. So that would be 14. So there's a mistake. This one should be 2x equals 14. I'll let you figure out the correct solution. One more step. Solve for x. Okay, 6-41. Here we have a sequence, and it's asking what kind of sequence it is. And you can kind of see it's not adding, because 5 plus 20 is 25. And 25 plus 20, it's not going to work out. If you try to add 20, no. So this is geometric. It's geometric. And we know that because we can say 5 times 5, and that's 25. 25 times 5 is 125. And if you keep multiplying by 5, it takes you to the next term. If you're wondering where I got that times 5 from, the trick is you take the second number, which is 25, and then you divide it by the first number. And this tells you how to get to the next term. What do you multiply by? Multiply by 5. Okay, what is the fifth term? Write an explicit equation. I'll let you do that. You have the common ratio, to get an explicit equation, you also need the 0 term. So instead of multiplying by 5, I'll divide by 5 to go backwards. And 5 divided by 5 is 1. So the 0th term is 1. The multiplier is 5. That should help you write that one, and then figure out what the 5th term is. 642. Which line is perpendicular to this one? Okay, so if a line is perpendicular to that one, note that the slope here is negative 2/3, and a perpendicular slope has two characteristics. It has to be upside down, and it has to be opposite sign, meaning if this one's negative, this one should be positive. So which one of these will have a slope of 3/2? Well, the only way to find out is solve for y. So I'll pick 2, and maybe one of them will be right. Let's see. Let's start with D. Let me not circle it. Okay, so solve for y. Solve for y. So take away 3x from each side. And I get 2y equals 6 minus 3x. Write them side by side. Then I'll divide everything by 2. And I get y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3, minus 3 divided by 2 is just 3 divided by 2, x. Almost, but this one's negative, so it's not D. Alright, I'm gonna try C. First step's the same, take away 3x. So I get negative 2y. Be careful that negative 2 belongs to the y. Alright, and then I'll divide both sides, not by 2, I'll divide both sides by negative 2. Because that's the number in front of y. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, let's see what happens. Y equals 6 divided by negative 2. It's positive divided by negative, so it's negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 2 is, first of all, it's positive, because negative divided by negative. Second of all, 3 divided by 2 is just 3/2. Aha! We have a match. So it looks like I answered this one for you, and the answer is C. Please show your work. 6-49. Write an equation to represent each of these situations below. Don't actually solve it, you just write it. Okay, so I will do B. The cost of a CD is $14.95. The cost of a video game is $39.99. Say let C equals... Whoops, sorry, looks like they already did that for us. We have C CDs and V video games. So what you do is you take the cost of a CD and you multiply it by C, which represents CDs. So $14.95 C. Plus, then you take the cost of a video game and multiply it by V, $39.99 V. So if you take all the CD cost and video game cost and you add them up, it should add to what he spent overall, the total, $84.84. Make sure you do A. 6-51. Solve this one for M. I'll do C. Alright, I want to get M equals in my answer. So I'll start by adding 6 to each side. That's going to make a 0 pair, and I have 2M equals 4N plus 10. Then I'll divide both sides by 2, divide everything by 2. M equals 4N divided by 2, that's just 2N plus 5. Let's do D, solve for Y. So my answer is going to be Y equals. Okay, start by moving the BX over, subtracting BX from each side. Negative Y, the negative sign belongs to the Y, be careful Negative y equals negative 2y, take away bx. Now to get just y instead of negative y, the trick is flip all the signs. So this is y, this becomes 2y, and this becomes plus bx. Algebraically, what I just did there is negative 1 times negative y equals negative 1 times negative 2y minus bx. You multiply everything by negative 1. So negative 1 times negative y is just y. Negative 1 times negative 2y is positive 2y. And then that's how I got what I did. So the trick really is you just flip all the signs. Keep the numbers the same. That's 51. 6-61. Okay, the fabulous footballers scored 55 points during last night's game. Interestingly, the number of field goals was one more than twice the number of touchdowns. So this one's going to be pretty tricky here. We've got 7 points for a touchdown, 3 points for a field goal. That's the usual. Okay. So when we make our point equation, you can say looks like they use f and t. Let f equal number of field goals. And then let's let t be the number of touchdowns. Alright, so for our point equation, we've got 7 points for a touchdown, 7 times t, plus 3 points for each field goal, 3f, and so that's going to equal 55, the total number. So that's our point equation. 7 points for a touchdown, 3 for a field goal, add to 55. So this one's not right. Neither is that one. Alright? I'll let you figure out if it's 1 or 2. Okay, here's our sequence. This is not going to be arithmetic because 2 plus 8 is 10. 10 plus 8, it's not 50. It's a geometric. Let's use our trick to get the common ratio. Let's take the second number and let's divide it by the first number. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So this is our number to multiply by. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 5 is 50. 50 times 5 is 250. So yeah, it's geometric times by 5. Now let's describe the shape of the graph. Remember, a sequence has a dot graph. And it's going up. It's definitely increasing. And the shape is linear? No, it's nonlinear. It's curved because we don't have a common difference. We have a multiplier. I'll let you write the explicit equation. Find the zeroth term. Find the multiplier. And then you write your equation. 6-64. Kevin and Katie trying to solve this system. Kevin thinks using the substitution method is best. Here's his new equation, and then Katie's is different. So let's check. So we have one of the equations solved for y equals, one of them not. That's how we know to use substitution. The top equation is y equal form, the bottom one is not. Alright, so I see a y right here, and this is y equals. So what you do is, you take what y is equal to, and you put it into that equation. 3x plus 2 times y. 2 times y, right? So y can also be, since y is equal to 6x minus 1, that's how I want to set this up. So who is right? Kevin or Katie? This is correct. I'll let you answer that. Alright, we're doing hot dogs and corn dogs here. So I think what I'll do is help you write the equations, and then you can answer C. Alright, the number of hot dogs sold was 3 fewer than twice the number of corn dogs sold. Write an equation. H is going to be hot dogs, C is going to be corn dogs. The trick is to find the word is or was, and turn that into an equal sign. The number of hot dogs equals H equals number of hot dogs equals was is an equal sign. And this part's tricky. 3 fewer than twice the number of corn dogs. Twice the number of corn dogs. So you take C corn dogs, and then twice is 2 times C. But 3 fewer than that is you multiply C times 2, and then you minus 3. Take away 3. So H equals 2C minus 3. Alright, then we have our cost equation. A hot dog costs $3. A corn dog costs $1.50. There's the total cost. So you take your hot dog cost, 3 times H, $3 for each hot dog, and then you take your corn dog costs, so you're going to add on plus 150C, and if you add up the total amount from the hot dogs and corn dogs, it should equal $201. Alright, so you've got H equals 2C minus 3, and 3H plus 150C equals 201. Solve for H and C. Now the key here is to use substitution. One of the equations is solved for H, one of them is not. So what you do is, I've got 3H plus 150C equals 201. This is my second equation. Now instead of writing 3 times H, I can write 3 times whatever H is equal to. So instead of writing H, I can write 2C minus 3, because H is the same thing as 2C minus 3, according to this equation. Solve for C. That's the number of corn dogs. Then figure out the number of hot dogs. 6-76, and this is the last one. Okay, I'm going to do B. This one's a little bit tricky. I see a fraction, and let's multiply by the LCD. So for this one, you calculate the LCD by multiplying these two together. This one's actually kind of tricky. So the LCD would just be 4 times x plus 2. And then let's multiply both sides by 4 times x plus 2. Alright, so 4 times x plus 2 times 6. So that's 4 times x plus 2 times 6 all over x plus 2 equals 4 times x plus 2 times 3. And that's all over 4. Alright, now x plus 2, these are all times signs. So x plus 2 divided by x plus 2 is 1. That's going to cancel out. Same over here, 4 divided by 4, that's just 1, that's going to cancel out. So look what we have left, 4 times 6. 24 equals 3 times x plus 2, or x plus 2 times 3. I'm going to write it like this. In case you can't see, you can distribute. 24 equals 3x plus 6, and then solve for x. Take away 6 from both sides. Divide both sides by 3. Alright, part A. I have a minus sign outside the parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is distribute that minus sign. It's kind of like having a negative 1 right there. Distribute the minus sign, so 2 becomes negative 2, and minus 3x is now plus 3x, because a negative times a negative, that's positive. Okay, so we have that, then we have plus x, equal sign, 9 minus x, combine like terms, negative 2 plus 4x equals 9 minus x, and then we add x to each side. So negative 2 plus 5x equals 9. Add 2 to each side. Now I've got 5x equals 11. Divide both sides by 5. X equals 11 over 5. Okay, make sure you also do C and D. And that is it.